It's so much more than a job to me. This is my life.
I'll never forget that. This is this bird's home, leave him alone. It was awesome.
The Fort Ord story begins in 1917 when the U.S. Army purchased land near the Monterey Bay to use as a training ground for the troops stationed at the Presidio of Monterey. The training grounds would be used for the cavalry troops and the field artillery. The area was named Camp Ord after Major General Edward C. Ord, and he was a Civil War veteran. Through the 1930s, the primary purpose of Fort Ord was for cavalry training. And then in 1940, Camp Ord was redesignated Fort Ord with the 7th Infantry Division occupying the post. For the next 30 years, Fort Ord served as the primary facility for basic training in the U.S. Army. In its heyday, Fort Ord covered more than 28,000 acres, so that's the size of San Francisco. So in 1991, Fort Ord was selected for decommissioning, and the post formally closed in 1994. They took about 15,000 acres and they offered it to BLM. To the Bureau of Land Management. When we became a monument, it was user-driven. Instead, we didn't ask, BLM didn't say, hey, can you make us a monument? It was the public that wanted it. And Henrietta, she was one of the driving forces.
Let's see, I think it was 2004, and I had just started mountain biking and went to the Sea Otter Classic in April, and there was a fellow there, Peter Sherrill, who it turns out was one of the founders of MORCA, Monterey Off-Road Cycling Association. And he was walking around with bright pink postcards that says, Save Planet Ord on it. And he was really aware of some of the potential development and loss of open space based on the Fort Ord reuse plan. I got one of those cards and I go, oh, I'm going to go to this meeting and learn more about this. And so that's how I first became involved with MORCA. The Army started doing some additional cleanup, and they were just going to literally shut things down. They were just going to put a fence around everything to do their cleanup, and we would lose access to all these trails that we had come to love. And that was sort of the founding of the precursor to Fort Friends, because there were cyclists, there were hikers, there were road runners, or trail runners, there were equestrians, and we all were just really upset about that and started coming to these public meetings that the Army was holding and just saying, absolutely not, this is not acceptable. And to their credit, the Army was open enough to starting to create some of these access corridors to what became eventually the Fort Ord National Monument, the Fort Ord Public Lands.
So there's 2 large oak trees.
So there was live munitions. Mostly they did training, so there was training bullets and bombs and things that don't really go boom. But this stuff did go boom, and they're still currently cleaning that. This is
Cities were looking at Fort Ord as its development potential, literally divvying up the pie and who wants to build what and all these ideas. Now, the reality was that was in the impact area, which is still being cleaned up and is probably going to be another several decades before it actually is. So I don't think that reality ever really will come to pass, but there was that mindset of the land as development potential.
a lot of people that you talk to in the federal government, we don't do this for the money. We do it because we like what we do. And there's not a lot of people that aren't passionate about what they're doing. There's got to be at least one thing that brings them to work, you know, and to feel attacked, that's tough. That's tough.
So at our most recent board meeting, it was like, there are no grants anymore. So many of these grants that enabled us to do trail work and fix trails and reroutes and maybe even do a new trail to replace one that wasn't really serving the public, that's dried up. And literally we had a whole program going. We're not doing it anymore. You know, the money's gone. And so we don't have the part-time employees anymore. You know, it's all now back to volunteer, which is okay, but just any major projects to really help fix things just aren't there. Also, you know, we've lost a wonderful manager of the Fort Ord National Monument who took the Doge, you know, fork in the road, 48 hours to decide whether you're retiring or not. And evidently, since they pay him for 8 months, there's no money to hire somebody new until that 8 months is passed. So several programs that we've done in the past, like Public Lands Day, serving lunch to all the volunteers, not happening. The Safe Passages program isn't happening. I don't know what else isn't happening. You know, it's sort of a question mark. There was 2 or 3 employees who had to be let go. And I don't know what those positions were, but obviously when you don't have the employees out there, you know, there are folks who aren't as respectful to the lands out there, and so you may not have as much of a ranger presence, so you may not have the ability to help rehabilitate a trail if the person who operated the Bobcat was laid off or fired or whatever. So there is concern along those lines. We hope the majority of people are respectful and donate, but it's hard in terms of we not really knowing.
That the Supreme Court just okayed the president to be able to continue with the reduction in force. Yeah. So whether or not I get riffed, that would be one thing. But even if I didn't, when we lose other people on our team, it makes it harder for me to be able to do my job. Yeah. And so if it makes it so I just can't do it anymore, you know, I'd have to change, do something else, perhaps. Okay, so this one, if you smell the leaves, this is black sage. And I remember it because black sage has pom-poms. And these will get little white flowers on them. And then as they dry out, these are the seed pods, so little tiny seeds come out of there. But I always tell the kids, you know, black sage has pom-poms. This is also sticky monkey flower. So the kids really like that as well because of the name, of course. Most of the other kids that I work with, they don't get field trips. They don't get to go outside. The schools don't have the money. Parents don't have the money. I'm working with the East Salinas kids. Families are speaking Spanish. Parents are working on the weekends. They don't have time to take their kids on a weekend hike. But they will. I had one mother that carried, I guess it was like a 2 or 3 year old child that looked like it weighed about 60 pounds. It was a big kid. And she was not prepared. She was wearing like a long skirt. But her son cried and threw a fit because he wanted to go on a Ranger Tammy hike, and her husband had to work. and he works in the fields. So she carried that big kid 3.5 miles on a hot day because her son wanted to go on that hike, and he loved every second of it. Every second of it. And some of the other parents were helping out as much as they could, you know, trying to carry the kid and stuff like that. But I mean, sometimes it's really hard for some of these families to be able to even come here. It's free, but they're working. But I've had grandparents tell me, you know, that the parents were working, so the grandparent brought out his granddaughter. He just had back surgery. He made it the whole 3.5 miles. He was almost crying and thanking me for taking them on that hike because he never knew that this was available and that it was free, and he never would have thought that he could have made it. But he felt comfortable going with me, and now they come as a family. And it's like, that's huge. It's huge. These are their public lands, their government dollars at work. And a lot of people don't. They're nervous, they're scared, they're afraid of the outdoors, but they'll do it for their kids. And that's how those weekend hikes really have the biggest impact, is because the kids get excited because I'm coming to their class. They trust me because they see me once a month. And then when I offer it, they bug their parents until somebody brings them. And then their parents learn, oh, this is free. This is what we can do. Okay, sounds good. So, yeah.
That kid got it and was teaching another kid right then and there. I'll never forget that. This is this bug's home, leave him alone. It was awesome.
This is my life. This is what I've done. And when I'm in town and I'm shopping at Target, I'll hear, "Hi, Ranger Tammy," and it's like, oh my God. And I'm working on my second generation of kids. I taught their moms and dads, and now I'm teaching them. That's how long I've been here. And so this is the first bench that was donated at Fort Ord. And now we have 19 different benches scattered throughout the whole property. I installed every single bench, and I know the story behind each one, and there's different stories on each one. And when the fog lifts, you can actually see the smokestacks at Moss Landing. So you've got the ocean over here, Salinas Valley, known as the world's salad bowl. You have Spreckles over here, have Toro Peak over here, Fremont Peak over here. This is our trailhead. This is Creekside Terrace Trailhead. This was our first trailhead put in 2007 that really opened it up for the property, you know, for people to be able to access the property.